You think you know video games? You don't know jack.
Video game expertise is here. It's going to teach you everything you ever wanted to know. For 2,000 video games, it's time for video game expertise.
The Great Video Game Crash of '96. Video games were running wild in the 90s. Awesome hits like Super Metroid, Mario, and Donkey Kong were ripping things to pieces, and Final Fantasy was there too. It seemed like things couldn't go wrong. But there was a certain monster that thought he knew better about video games. Bill, I don't know his middle name, Gates the Third, Esquire, one of the world's worst actors. He'd long sought to cause chaos and misery everywhere he went. He had done it in the computer industry, and he was going to do it to video games. He saw how they were rising up with great titles like Mega Man, and he was going to put a stop to it. But how? He hadn't yet figured out to create a fake console. That was his scheme later in the 2000s. No, his plan to start with would be much more direct, more basic. He would simply sell as many of his vile computers as possible, pushing people to the internet and away from video game consoles and handhelds. Computers were designed to do one thing: office work. Hence why he called it Microsoft Office. Computers could, in theory, produce a game, but it clearly wasn't a video game. Everybody knew that. Gates himself knew it, of course. But they could still try to fake it, and that's what they did. They created this abomination called Doom, which was not a video game but a computer game, among many others, such as Flight Simulator, which in the name tells you it's not a video game, it's a flight simulator. It's just a bunch of dials and doodads set up just like a spreadsheet. You change numbers in the cells. That's not fun. Sure, calculators are cool and all, and you can turn them upside down and see boobs, but that doesn't mean they're video games. Gates began to push his Microsoft operating system everywhere, in all the electronic stores, including in the video game aisle. His attack on the nascent video game industry was underway. In the process, he created the most vile thing imaginable: online multiplayer, which is not video games at all. It has nothing to do with video games, and he was using this along with this Doom garbage as a tactic to take it over and replace video games with computer games, which are not video games at all. His plan was going to be a great success, except for one man, Shigeru Miyamoto. He toiled away at the creation of the next great video game, Super Mario 64, and to do it, he'd need the most powerful console ever conceived, and it was already underway. When he heard about Gates' plan, he stifled that shit.
If this nerd thinks he can stop me and my video games, he's dead wrong. We're gonna pound him into the ground, Mario style.
Shigeru Miyamoto, 1996. And he lived up to that threat. Miyamoto released the N64, perfectly designed for the three-dimensional gaming, which Miyamoto created at the same time. Developing it all together into one ultimate package, the N64 with Mario 64 would save the video game industry from Bill Gates and put him back in a tailspin for a few more years before he'd try to wreck it again. It was not long after that the PlayStation, which had released earlier, saw the N64's incredible power and quickly ripped them off, stealing the N64 controller idea of analog joysticks. After that, PlayStation blew up with games like Duke Nukem and Tomb Raider. And Nintendo pumped out the hits with Zelda 64 and Mario Party. Video games were gonna stay a thing. And computers and the internet? Well, as Miyamoto himself said, Bill Gates can kiss my ass! Thanks for watching Video Game Expertise.